Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome to my living room. Actually, this is where we're gonna start discussing uncomfortable topics that we should be discussing. No one's gonna judge you, and we're gonna talk about weird shit. So let's get into it. Today's topic is people pleasing. I know. We've either been there, done that, still doing it, don't know how to stop, or right in between where I'm like practicing how not to people please, but then you do a few things that are people pleasing and you're like, what the hell? So let's talk about it. It is an uncomfortable topic for some people, but truly, I believe it is such an empowering thing to finally become conscious about. People pleasing can stem from many places, many experiences. A lot of the times it has to do with your childhood. Like, for example, me, I was raised a Latina, and in a Latina household, as a female, we are encouraged to please those around us, especially men. So for me, I have struggled with it for a long time, but I'm finally to the point where I feel empowered, where I have taken control and my power back, and I don't people please anymore, and it's really freaking liberating. The thing about people pleasing is, first and foremost, it invites disrespect, right? If you think about it, people pleasing is a form of disrespect to yourself. Therefore, you invite it for it to be done to you. You know, for there to be boundaries that are bent multiple times, you need to come to a realization where it's just like, you have to come to a standpoint and say, you know what, I'm no longer going to be that person that bends over backwards for people just to make them feel comfortable, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You do things to make people feel comfortable, but what about you? You come home after doing that and you feel like complete shit. You really do. And then you think to yourself, like, well, why didn't that person consider me? Because people are selfish. And especially if you're one to people please, people will take advantage of you. You allow the boundaries to be bent once, it's going to happen twice, 3 times, and forevermore on that relationship unless you speak up for yourself, A, and B, if they choose to respect what you have to say. So you have to think about people pleasing as a form of disrespect to yourself. So if you respect yourself, you hold yourself to a higher value, you're no longer going to want to do things that don't make you feel good. And at the end of the day, life is way too short for you to be living a life inauthentically, because that's what truly happens. You live life according to other people's plans, other people's, desires. And truly, it does not feel good. So if you struggle with this, just remember that you no longer people pleasing is not a bad thing. I remember for the longest time when I was working on this, I felt like a bad person. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so mean. Oh my gosh, like I made them feel very bad. And that's not true. It's called respect. It's respect for yourself. The thing is, when you start respecting yourself, you start holding yourself on a pedestal. And not saying to be like cocky or conceited, but you start valuing your time. You start valuing where you put your energy. You're never gonna get that back, You start valuing where you're gonna put your efforts, right? If you're constantly doing something for other people and you're never getting anything in return, what is going to happen? You're going to grow resentments, and one day you are going to explode. You are going to explode, and then you're the one who's going to look like the bad person. And that's what I always tell people. Before you allow that to happen, put an end to that. That way you have control over the outcome and yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, do you want to feel like you exploded on somebody and now you're the bad guy, when all along all you wanted to do is what you wanted to do, right? Like what felt good to you, but you just didn't express yourself the way you should. And so like all of a sudden it's a big deal. And so you want to stop people pleasing to avoid these conflicts within relationships. The minute you set your boundaries and your standards, people are gonna start, like, I'm not gonna lie, when I first started setting my boundaries, people looked at me sideways. They're like, who is she and what are you saying? Like, you're not doing what I'm telling you to do? And I'd be like, no. And honestly, I would come home and I would feel like icky. I'd be like, oh my God, what did I do? But over time, I started feeling empowered. I started feeling like I was in control over my own life. I started coming home and feeling good about me and my decisions because I started doing what felt good to me, what felt right to me. And you know what? The people who didn't choose to respect my boundaries eventually fell out of my life, and I couldn't be happier, right? In this world, you're not meant to be friends with everybody. And that's another hard pill to swallow. You know, your people will respect what you have to say. So for example, like if you have a good friend and you don't want to cut them off, so you're like, hey, Sarah, it's an example. Sarah, it really bothers me when you ask me to change my plans so I can accompany you to these events, or you know, why do I have to inconvenience myself every time? It makes me feel like you're not respecting my time, and I don't like that. So when you give the floor and the opportunity for someone to rectify their behavior, they have two options, whether it is A, to become a better friend, or B, to really not care what you have to say, and they're just gonna do it anyways. Those people shouldn't even be in your life because they're showing you that it's okay to disrespect you. They liked you when you were a people pleaser because it benefited them, right? You want relationships that are fulfilling. It's a give and take. And it's not to say that you have to write everything down, like I did this, I bought her one coffee, I bought her this, or I went there, she drove here and I drove. Like, you don't have to do that. It's not a tit for tat, but you know when a relationship is unbalanced, it's not harmonious, it's not an equal give and take. If I was your friend and you were constantly going out of your way for me, I would love to do things for you because I'd be like, oh my God, you're so sweet. Let me do something for you. You know, you don't have to do that all the time for me. Let me show my appreciation for you. You know, I really appreciate all the things that you've done. Let me show that, because it is valuing somebody. And if those relationships are not prevalent in your life now, then you should reevaluate who you hang out with, especially as you get older. Like, who really has time to be with people who just want to use you? I don't. It doesn't feel good to me. And also, as someone who is so generous, so giving with my energy, with my resources and my kindness, you have to know where you stand in the pendulum. So if you're someone who gives a lot, you shouldn't have, it doesn't benefit you to have friends who are just takers. Take. At the end of the day, even if you give with your heart, generously with your heart without any ulterior motives, you are going to feel used. You are going to feel some sort of way because you're constantly giving, they're constantly taking. And so that's just something that I also had to learn, right? If I was constantly driving an hour away to see a friend, an hour away to see a friend, and they never did that in our friendship, it did bother me. You know, like you have to also take into consideration what your needs are, right? It's not always about being, let's not just say being the bigger person or whatever, but it is just taking account into who you have in your life. But people pleasing also, like if you have a problem with people pleasing, a few things that you should be focusing on and working on yourself is your self-worth. When you're constantly pleasing people and you put yourself last, that indicates, that's a huge red flag that you have low self-worth. How do you fix this? Practicing affirmations. Practicing saying no when you don't want to say yes. So if you want to stay home and watch a movie instead of going out bar hopping or just out for dinner, whatever, you don't want to go, say, hey, you don't have to lie. You shouldn't have to lie. You could say, hey, thank you so much for the invite, but tonight I'm actually feeling like staying home. I hope you have a great time. The people who are for you, the people who are genuinely your friends will say, no problem. We'll catch you on the next one. Have fun with your self-care night. And so little things like that you start practicing, it's like being uncomfortable, right? Because saying no when you're used to saying yes, it's just like, it feels like weird. It's like, oh my God, am I really gonna text this person? And you're gonna have to do that. You're gonna have to stand your ground in certain things until you build this confidence within you and you say no proudly, without even like hesitating, without even coming home and thinking twice about what you did, right? Because it's like that guilt trip that you feel. It's like, really, oh my gosh, I'm gonna let her down. She's gonna be upset. Like honestly, does it matter? Does it matter? Because your friends that are actually your friends will totally understand you. Obviously, if it's like an important event and you already agreed upon going, sure, you need to do your due diligence. But there are certain occasions where you just have to do certain things, sacrifice for other people. But we're speaking in a general sense, in a general, like the common occurrences, the common invitations, the common requests, and this can happen in your family too. I've had that issue where I've had to tell my parents, like again, I told you I'm a Latina. When you're a Latina, you're conditioned to do as your elders say. And there was this, one time where I was just like, hey, Mom, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm an adult and I love you, but I don't have to do that. And I don't want to. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that makes you feel bad. But this is my boundary. Right? And then you start practicing this as if it is a muscle. It is a muscle. It's, you start building this thick layers and you become so confident in who you are that this eventually will be something that you don't have to worry about, because sometimes people pleasing can be like the biggest burden of your life. And for those people who struggle with this, you know what I mean. You know exactly what I mean. It's mortifying. It's like the end of the world. But practicing self-worth with affirmations and doing these little practices like saying no and just putting yourself first. And you don't have to be rude about it. You just have to be confident about it. You know what I mean? It's about the way you deliver the message. That's also a very important thing, because people tend, when they get out of the people pleasing era, they go from 0 to 100 and they're like, I'm done people pleasing, and they're just unhinged. And I'm not saying that you need to do that, but it happens all the time. And then you're just like, what is going on with this person? It's like the balance is so off. But I guess it's better than not being than being a people pleaser, right? But still, it's just like, if you practice boundaries, you don't have to be that person who explodes when they get really upset. It's like the you know, like the ticking time bomb. It's like one day, you know, that one person, and that one day you get them really irritated and they just explode after like months of being silent. It's like, you don't want to be like that either. So it's so important to find a good balance. But practicing this will help you significantly. Also, when you do set your boundary, like I said, it's the tone. It's the tone that you say everything with, right? It's just like the confidence. It's like, hey, I'm not gonna go, but I hope you have an amazing time. Catch you on the next one, right? Once you start implementing these little small habits, look at them as a little habit, a daily accomplishment. So when you feel like you have to say yes, you don't have to respond right away. Like if it's coming out of your mouth, like word vomit, think about it. And you could tell them, hey, I'm not sure yet. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you. That way the pressure is off, right? And you're being so cordial and respectful about it. But yeah, these are a few things that have helped me with my journey. I feel I can finally say, like, I'm so secure in who I am. I'm so confident in who I am that it's so much easier to lay my boundaries with this, you know. And this whole people pleasing thing, it was such a burden in my life. And I feel so liberated. My life is so much better. The people in my life, like, your circle becomes even better because you've already deselected those who don't respect you. And truly, honestly, like, you don't want to be around those people anyways. You want to have quality people. It's not about the amount of people that are in your life. And also, another thing, you guys, what kept me from cutting people off that were disrespectful was like, oh, I've been friends with them for 10 years or 5 years, or they did this for me. That does not matter. It's not the length of the relationship, it's the quality. And that goes with everything: partners, friends, family. You want to have a good quality life. Why? Life is short. So by you handling this piece of your life and the people pleasing, your life is going to be so much more fulfilled with happiness because you have control over that. And so, anyways, guys, I hope these tips helped somebody. Comment down below what you're struggling with. If you have any questions, if you have additional tips to give to everybody who's watching this video. And I'm sending you so much love, so much abundance, and all the positivity in the world.